Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip-hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7 on hot7025fm.com. Keep your radio.
Hi. Hey.
What's up? What's up?
All your favorite artists.
Check it out. Say my name. DJ Khaled. This is Mila J.
Bruno Mars.
On hot7025fm.com.
Tune in now on hot7025fm.com.
Yeah. Jones. Hey. Greg Deville was at it, man. Hey. If you want the real, holla at Greg Deville. He'll tell you how to do it. Now get to it. If you want the real, listen to Greg Deville. He'll tell you how to do it. Now get to it. I'm talking real estate, building wealth, making money for your family and yourself. Now tune in. We here to help. Now tune in. We here to help. You wanna be a broker, you wanna be broke. You wanna be the joker, you wanna be the joker. You gotta bring more to the table than your hope, dreams and wishing. I can feed you fish or I can take you out fishing. I can show you the vision, addition and division, mathematic equation. Make the money flip like an acrobatic, amazing. Greg Deville help you build the foundation. I'm saying, if you want the real, holla at Greg Deville. He'll tell you how to do it. Now get to it. If you want the real, listen to Greg Deville. He'll tell you how to do it. Now get to it. I'm talking real estate, building wealth, making money for your family and yourself. Now tune in. We here to help. Now tune in. We here to help.
All right, Las Vegas. It's Wednesday, 12 high noon. What a beautiful day here in Las Vegas. Tell you, we're over 100. Look, today I want to discuss foreclosures and how they are on the rise. Right now, I'm actually inviting on the show today to be our guest. I will have Ms. Debbie Conway, who is the County Recorder Office, and we'll have Courtney come on from the County Recorder's Office. Listen, foreclosures happen, life happens. I want to raise the awareness that many of you are dealing with loss of job, divorce, loss of spouse, loss of income. Whatever it has happened, unfortunately, it's happened. And there are many that are coming into foreclosure, meaning you're in default with your mortgage. Now, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, although you're in default. Now, many of you have equity in your home. You haven't refinanced it in the last 5 years. You certainly have equity in your home. And if you have, many of you, there's still some money to be gotten from pre-foreclosure sales. Now, when the bank takes your property, those equity funds, I understand you're supposed to receive them back. How long will it take? So if I can get you those equity funds within 30 days, right? That means we've got to put the house on the market. We've got to prepare to sell the property. We've got to prepare the property for showings, right? Sometimes we go in and declutter so that people can see themselves in your property. Your decor is gorgeous, but we're not selling your decor. We want to sell the spaciousness of the house. We know you like all your counter utensils and all your wonderful appliances, but I need those counters and those items so that we can see how large that counter really is. Moving some things around, maybe taking out some of the furniture just so they can see how large the room really. And I'm speaking from the realm of, a pre-foreclosure sale. If that's what we've got to do, listen, it is what it is. Many of you have equity, as I mentioned, but you cannot refinance your home. Refinancing your home is not an option due to the fact interest rates are higher. Many of you can't take a home equity line of credit, which the term means HELOC. You can't do a HELoan or a HELOC because, again, FICO scores are required to be at least a 680 minimal, right? So when you're behind 30 days in a mortgage or more, lenders are not willing to go in and help pull the equity out of your home and give you what we like to term a second chance. Because if you miss 30 days, they're afraid you may miss their payment and they're coming in second position. They don't want to be in second position. They want to be in first. You already have someone in first position. That's your primary mortgage holder. So I want to talk today from the subject of foreclosures are on the rise. Yes, they are. Ms. Conway is going to come on. She's going to talk about how the county recorder office are seeing those numbers increase. Now, if you're one of the ones that you've gotten over, you're over 30 days delinquent, and many of you gotten over 45 days delinquent, and you're getting letters in the mail. Once you surpass 120 days, the banks, now listen, the foreclosure department is different from your mortgage service provider. Let's make this clear, because many of you are thinking because you're talking to the bank that they're holding up the foreclosure. Listen, that foreclosure department is in a total different, sometimes state, sometimes zip code. They're not communicating with the service provider, your mortgage company. And let me help you understand. When you sign for that property, all those papers you sign what we term as a promissory note. And it comes about the 7th or 8th page in the signing. Means you promise to pay the mortgage at whatever that amount was for the amount of 30 years on a fixed rate. And you sign the form that says if you go past 120 days, okay, which means 4 months or more, that you can now, guess what? They can proceed with foreclosure proceedings. Now, with that being said, you signed to it. Another thing I want to make clear is the banks do not want your house. Hear me. I know you're saying the bank want to take my, listen, you're in default. Let's face the music. When you have a car, they tell you if you miss 3 payments, that's another promissory note. You promise to pay and you miss 3 payments, they have a right, and you sign to it, to repossess, reclaim ownership of their investment. Until you pay it off, it is their investment. So I want to make sure you're understanding, because it's very, very important that you know what you're signing. Now, I know you're excited about the house, but you didn't expect things to happen. You expect life to go this route again, whether it's you lost a loved one, or you went through a divorce, loss of income, you lost your job, you got laid off, you're part-time. Variation of things could happen that makes you go into default. Now, but don't forget, when you're having this situation, that you continue to pay the HOA. If you have an HOA on your property, please, ma'am, please, sir, pay the HOA, because that's another default against your property that very well can, guess what? They can foreclose as well. So let's backtrack here. Foreclosure is real. Not to make you terrified about it, not to have you afraid that they're just going to come and take your home. That's not the case. They don't just take your home. They don't want your home. Can I be very transparent right here? They do not even want your home. The bank does not want your home. Put that in the atmosphere. The bank does not want your home. When you understand how banking works, they're making money on the interest. They want the interest from the money, from the payment that you make. Because remember, there was an investor who invested in their bank, who they may be giving 1.5% to 2% on their investment every quarter or every year, whatever their agreement was with that investor's monies. He puts it in the bank long term to invest and to get an increase on his money, whether it's 1.5% to 2%. Now, with that being said, they loan you that money at 7%, meaning if they're giving 2% back to the investor, they're making 5% on the investor's money. So when it defaults, guess who has to pay once that property goes into default? That's right, the bank. The bank has to now give up that 2% without you giving them that 5%, so they're getting into a red. Now, that poses a problem for the bank. So now the foreclosure department comes in and they proceed with filings on the foreclosure side. Now, on the foreclosure side, what the bank's going to do is they have to relinquish their position, because now from the promissory note that you shared, watch this, the promissory note that you signed, then what happens is they start proceedings. Now, here's what I want you to understand. If you're 3 months behind, if you're 4 months behind, I need you to open that mail. I see I got Courtney on the line. Hey, Courtney, how you doing, man? Courtney's with the county recorder's office. Come to share with you what the filings are looking like in the county recorder's office. Hey, Courtney, how you doing, man?
All right. How about yourself?
I'm feeling great, man. I'm excited. So glad to have you with us, man. It's been a little while since I've seen you. How have you been?
I've been doing good. Been doing well.
I hear you could retire, but you just said I might as well stay.
Yeah, I'll be retiring next year.
Oh, you give it another year, and then we'll revisit it, right? Revisit. We'll revisit that whole idea next year. I mean, you're getting paid now to show up, right? Just show up, man. I mean, you're the big cheese around there, and they really need you, man. You're so powerful at what you do and the information you share. So just want you to know we certainly appreciate you today. I know Miss Conway was in traffic, but I'm glad you're here. I was speaking with her on last week about some other matters, and I thought, and she was sharing with me about the in the most recent 30, 40 days, how the numbers have increased with the foreclosure filings. What have you been seeing on your end? Talking about foreclosure filings, because I'm trying to help my listeners understand they're not being picked on. It's happening to so many people for so many different reasons. But what are you seeing based on your position at the Clark County Recorder's Office?
So yes, we are seeing a rise in the number of foreclosure documents that are being recorded in our office. Every month we run a report on the number of foreclosure documents that get recorded.
Yeah.
Particularly the notice of defaults.
Yes.
And so just within the last 6 months, starting from January, we're starting to see this rise.
Wow.
So say like in January of this year, we saw like 145. Then in February, it climbed up to 202. In March, it was 229. In April, it was 212. And in May, it was 198. So it dropped a little bit. But just as of last June, it's at 205.
June is 200.
So, yeah. So we're not seeing the numbers that we were seeing, like, back in the recession, like in 2008. Those numbers were like really high. We were seeing like 4,000 and 5,000 a month.
Yeah, right. Right.
We're not seeing those numbers.
Yeah.
But we are seeing these numbers here, and it's just like something that we monitor, because people do ask us, such as yourself,
right,
and other people ask us too, like what's going on with the foreclosure market, because the goal of everyone is to try to keep everybody in their home.
Exactly.
We, as you stated before, life does happen.
Exactly.
And maybe working for a company, and all of a sudden they decide to lay off 2,000 people, and
right.
You don't know if it's going to be you, and if it is you, hopefully you kind of plan for this and say, okay, I've saved up some money so I can have a roof over my head and pay the mortgage while I go look for another position.
Yeah.
Most people, some of them are living paycheck to paycheck, and so that really affects them.
Exactly.
And so this is what we're seeing, and so we put things out there to help people become notified when things get recorded on their property.
Yeah.
And so we have what we call our recording and notification service, which is a free service offered by the recorder's office.
Right.
With your email, so that anytime someone records something against your property, and it could be legitimate, if you didn't pay that trash bill, Republic Service will slap a lien on your home.
Right.
But at least you'll get notified by say, hey, I'm lacking in this. I didn't pay that bill. Let me go ahead and clear that up. And so if you're about to go in the default, you'll at least kind of know, like, okay, they recorded this default. I have between so many. They go get a copy of the document to look at it and examine it, and they may send a copy of it to you in the mail. What steps do I need to take to resolve this issue? I tell people you need to talk with your mortgage company to let them know, okay, you may have hit upon hard times, and it's not their fault. It's not your fault. It may not be your fault. It's not their fault, but they just want to know, when can you make some sort of payment? That's why you need to talk with your mortgage company.
Exactly. And open the mail. One of the things that I think happens with so many is they see it from the bank, and they're like, I already know I'm behind. I don't even want no more bad news today. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And so they don't open. But I want to make sure that my listeners know that if you have not paid your payment over 4 months, there could be a sale date in one of those envelopes. The most recent envelope you refuse to open can be a sale date. After 4 months of no payments, you've gotten your notice of default, they will stick a note on your door with some blue tape. When you see that blue tape, that's a foreclosure sale date in many cases. Now, once you get that sale date, that means they're going to go to the auction block, and there are hounds at the block waiting right there on 4th and Bridger at Nevada Legal News. Now, I go down there and I look at some of these properties that are being sold, and I'm saying people losing beautiful homes. And that's, as you mentioned, Courtney, if you know you're a couple months, contact your mortgage servicer and let them know you have a hardship. In many cases, they'll do a modification, put 2 months on the back end of the loan, sometimes 3 months. Put it on the back end and give you a fresh start. When do you think you can? Because they don't want half the payment. They'll deny half a payment. They want the full payment. And like I told the listeners before you came on, Courtney, the bank does not want your house. The banks do not want your house. They're like, we want the interest. We don't want the house. We're not into real estate. They're like, Deville, that's what we hire you for. We don't want the house. We need them to catch up on their payments, even if that means that we need to put 3 years on the back of the loan to give you a little breathing room, give you a couple extra months, get a new job. You know, they'll work with you in many cases. However, that's predicated on how well you've been paying previous months, right? So you can't have a hit and miss. Your credit is shady, and you know that you're suspect with the bank. Let me send this to the back office, right? And that's where you sometimes, and life, again, as you mentioned, Courtney, and we've talked about, life happens, you know, and with all these layoffs. So those of you, we're talking on our show today, foreclosures are on the rise. And if that's you, Courtney just mentioned in June, there's 205 notice of defaults filed in just June. Every month since January, would you say 145, February, 202, March, 228, April, 212, May, 198, June, 205 foreclosures notices filed with the county recorder's office. This is in 1 month. Maybe you're in that number, but let's say this. Let's do a pre-foreclosure sale. What does that mean? Because many, as I mentioned, Courtney, have equity in their home, right? If they haven't taken money out in the last 5 years, because I know you haven't refinanced because the rates have been ridiculous. So, but if you haven't done a HELOC, you know, then you have equity. But because you're 30 days behind, no lender will give you any money. 130 day will just kick you out the door. And then it's required to have a 680 or better FICO score to even get a HELOC. And Courtney, a lot of times the HELOC, because people are 4 months, let's say their payments are $2,000 a month. Well, that's just $8,000. You got $200,000 in equity. And if you could just get $8,000, you know, you're caught up, you know, and like, hey, but that poses the problem. The reason we're seeing foreclosures, as you mentioned, job layoffs, so many things. Now, Courtney, when they have the foreclosure notice, so they're coming back to file after the foreclosure default notice, they're coming back. So how does that work when they sell it? Do you guys get that new buyer notice now, right? So they're going to file a new buyer now.
So what happens is the first document in the foreclosure process, and this is part of the record research class that I teach because I taught it to you and others.
Right.
Is that notice of default? It's either called a default in election to sell or a breach in election to sell. Okay. Right. The second document that gets recorded is called a certificate of foreclosure mediation. Okay. That is a document that has to be recorded because during the recession, you know, when people were losing their homes left and right, the Nevada legislatures put this process in there because, you know, the banks were, you know, just say, hey, there's like trading loans left and right, you know, almost like playing Russian roulette with your stuff.
Right.
And so, you know, they said, you know, you just can't do that. Just start taking people's homes because they don't know who to pay because you all just started, you know, treating loans like trading cards.
Right.
So, you know, they put this process in there that says, you know, this is a certificate of mediation has to be recorded, which means did this property, you know, apply for, you know, or at least, you know, qualify for a mediation aspect. In other words, you know, the two parties, you know, come together and maybe they can come to some sort of an agreement and do a modification loan. Okay, that document has to be recorded before they continue with anything else. Okay, so that's why as you said before, you need to talk with your mortgage servicer. To say, what can I do? This is my situation, and I know it's not your fault, but help me out. So that I can find some way to stay in my home and keep my home and make these payments. You have to talk to your lender. Okay, but if people will ignore it and not do that, and they record this document, then the next thing is that notice of trustee sale. And that's the notice, as you specify, what they put on with the blue tape that says your house is about to be sold at auction. Okay, and what I've seen is when maybe some people will get that, and that's when they all of a sudden they rush into our office and saying that, oh, they illegally recorded this on my property and they trying to do something, or they may have attended some weird class that says, oh yeah, just record all these weird things that are really not recordable to try and stop it.
Right.
And so that's when we have to get our attorney involved and say, is this recordable or not?
Right.
But I digress. But once you get to that auction stage, it's just like, okay, you still again talk to your lender to see if there's anything you can do. A lot of times you're kind of past that point. And then if your property does get sold, they record what is called a trustee sales deed.
Right.
Okay. And that's the deed that says, okay, it went to auction and then it got sold by the trustee to this person here. And then that's the deed that said that now this person owns that home now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so that person may then decide to go sell it off to somebody else. But they usually do that, once they know that the house has been vacated.
Now, so now somebody just got scared because they're in this situation. Let's give a sense of relief in knowing that if a person buys the house, typically the next knock on the door is from the new owner, and they may give you 30 days to vacate. Now, in many cases of my experience, when they do a trustee sales deed and the new owner does take possession for the property, title-wise, they will come to the door and say, we're the new owners, and we're asking for for you to vacate the premises. Now, in this case, they don't have to give you relocation funds. And many situations that I'm seeing is, so they're not paying the mortgage, but they're buying a bunch of new stuff. There's a new car in the driveway, and we're not being smart because we're already in default. We figure since we ain't been paying, I might as well get a new car. But that day is going to come when you got to move, but you don't have the money to move. What do you do? So this is why I'm bringing up the fact of a pre-foreclosure sale. So before we get to this point, this is why we need you guys to listen. The pre-foreclosure sale means they default for this amount. We see what the default is. They say it's 200 or it's 480,000, but the house is on a $650,000 value now since you bought it. Now we sell the house close to market value. Let's say you walk away with 120,000 after you pay the bank back and you pay off the realtors and the title fees. And do not, ma'am, sir, please pay that HOA. Do not, I don't care how many months you're behind in this mortgage, pay that HOA because they too can default on your property. Now, they have a right. You signed the paper. These people don't want your property. They want the payment. So when you go fighting at the county recorder where they trying to take they don't want your house. They want the interest on the money. So if you can't pay it and you signed a promissory note when that stack of title documents, and when I go to these sign, I say, what page was the promissory note? And they say it's like page 7 or 8. Well, you agreed that if you miss 4 months, they have a right to foreclose or begin foreclosure proceedings. You signed it. So don't let's be a little more cognizant of the fact we signed an agreement. Now, what's worse is when you buy that new car, because when you buy a new car, you only got 90 days to miss your payments, and they're coming to get it. Now, you can fight them. You're going to lose the fight, but you can fight them because they're some angry guys, and they coming thinking you're going to be angry too. So you can give the keys because they're going to take the car, and they're going to find the car. I know you're hiding in the garage of somebody else's house. But I'm only saying that because I've been there. I understand. And I, over the years, I've come to learn that, if you can't pay the piper, You can't make the mortgage payment. Listen, let's just say, you know what? Let's sell the house. Let's take whatever proceeds we get from it. And I just got one lady from the county recorder's office, got the list, knocked on the door, showed her what she owed, what the house is worth today. She walked away after all the money's, spent paying the loan and doing everything. She got $142,000. It widened her bank account the day after we closed. She was about to lose the home in about 2 weeks. And we did a pre-foreclosure sale solely within 30 days. And guess what? She got $142,000. So I'm speaking to you listeners that although the county recorder is getting these reports, there's a way around it for you guys to not lose it to the bank. Ultimately, you pay the bank off. And once we get a buyer, we're going to request that you get 2 weeks after the close of escrow. So you have 2 weeks once you get your funds. So we close on August 1st, you have to August 15th. You got your money on August 2nd, you have until August 15th that you will have to relocate out of the property. But you got your money. You got 100,000, 140,000, 250,000. Whatever that equity amount minus the fees and the bank, whatever those title fees, realtor fees, and they're negotiable. So as Greg Deville, the broker who've been in, I'm 20 years in real estate in Vegas, 20 years, broker for going on 10 years. I like to think I've been around the block and I've helped countless numbers of families. So I want to bring light to you today and hope that although your name got listed at the county recorder's office, as Courtney's telling you today, they're listing 205 as of June. Last month, there was 205. And so every week they're listing properties on default list. And let's just be real with ourselves and say, you know what, I'm on the list. I'm on the list. You know if you're on the list. You know if you're 90 days, you're on the list. And so we say that to bring hope that if you're on the list, let's do something about it. Because the county recorder is telling you today, look, I'm getting it regularly. And this is what I'm seeing. So when people come in and they're complaining, Courtney, how are you able to help them? What are you able to do really? I mean, not much you can do if they're on the
Well, let me just say this, Greg. We don't compile a list monthly. We just have those. We just look at what's been recorded in our office.
Yeah.
And based upon the document type, that's how anyone is able to create that list. But we don't keep a running list. I need to make that very, very clear.
Okay.
Because you're telling people you're on the list. People will say, "Let me see the list. Where's my name?" No. Okay, that's not the case. Documents get recorded in our office against the parcel number, and it will have the owner's name on it. Okay, so let me just make that very clear. What I also want to make clear is the recorder does not run this process. We don't start this process. That is the lender and the trustee. Okay, all our office does is just record the document. Right. According to the recording requirements. Okay. Yeah. So, I get people in here talking about you all recorded stuff. I said, whoa. Yeah. Your lender recorded the document. It was presented to our people. Yeah. It was recordable. Okay. Yeah. I understand and I do have compassion for people who are going through this. Yeah. But, don't be mad at us. We're just doing our job according to the statute. Right. Okay. Right. So, people come in, they start, may holler and yell at some of the deputies, and that's when I have to step in. Right. And I talk to them and I say, what's going on? Yes, I see your house is in foreclosure. Yep. And this is how you can look at your property. I can show people, how to look at their property. We do that. We have staff who can, kind of walk you through that. You can look at it on the internet. The only thing on the internet, you just won't be able to see the image of the document. If you want to see the image of the document, you must come to our office. Right. Okay? Right. And so if you have like a notice of trustee sale, that will have the date in there of when your house is going to go up for auction. Right. So I tell people, sign up for the recording notification service because that will at least keep you informed of if you say, okay, well, I know that there's been a default recorded. Let me see where I am in the process. Has anything else been recorded since I got the default? And that's what the recording notification will do. is when something gets recorded against your property, you will get an email notification.
Right.
At least, and you can say, okay, well, what is this? And you can either come to the office to get a copy or just look at the document, or you can purchase the document online and it can be emailed to you, or it can be mailed if that's what you prefer.
Yeah.
But we do not govern this process. All I can do is tell you that based upon my experience and my years in this office,
Right.
this is the documents that we have seen that are part of the foreclosure process.
Yes.
So
now, and I respect where you are, and now in the broker real estate position, people know they haven't made their payments, and they've been getting letters from the lender, because the law came out that the lender had to notify them. You'll get a letter every week from the lender. Hey, is there anything we could do to help? We noticed you missed a payment. We noticed you're now 2 months behind, 2 payments missing. How can we help? So they're reaching out to you because Bank of America was sued because of lack of notification to the homeowners about delinquent. But I say this, you ain't made that payment. Why are we acting as if we don't know? We know we haven't made the payment. So here we go. Bottom line is we haven't. Let's get in touch with the bank, as we previously mentioned, and say, look, my job laid me off, or I've got, I had 2 incomes, I'm down to 1. How can I, can I do a modification? Talk to them. They don't want the house, they want the payment. So they'll work with you in many cases. But I want to be real, that people are real with themselves, and stop making it like somebody else is just after you. If you can't make the payment, the fact is they're going to file it, and it's real. And so when people call me, I get these calls, Courtney, I kid you not, the bank's trying to take my house. Then I say, okay, well, let me ask you this. Are you current on your payments? No, but the bank trying to take. Well, then that's one of the steps to keeping the house, is you got to be current on the payments. And I tell you, a lady really got mad at me because at the end of the day, they foreclosed on her house. She paid an attorney. And I said, ma'am, you're wasting your money. And she's going, oh, because they're trying to take my house, and I made a partial payment, and they sent it back. I said, they don't want a partial payment. They don't want your money if you're going to pay partial. So at the end of the day, spend money, could have put on a house mortgage for an attorney. They're going to take your money. He got the money. She said, he didn't show up in court. I said, you know why he didn't show up in court? Because he can't stop a foreclosure. You can prolong a foreclosure. You can't stop a foreclosure. Courtney, if I owe you $25,000 and you file it against me and the mechanics lien, you have to pay me. You can't just ignore the reason I did the mechanics lien and I filed it with the county recorder is that when you sell that house, my lien gets paid. And so I'm just dealing with the fact that I'm getting phone calls and people are blaming the mortgage company. As you mentioned, they're not after you. In fact, they don't even want to talk to you as long as they're getting that money. You don't even hear from them, right? That's like a car. As long as you pay the car, you can have the car. But you miss 1, 2, 3 payments, and you go in the morning, you're gonna hear these chains hit the ground, and you're gonna hear this beep, 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 and they're bagging up, and you're gonna hear this hitch. I was at Home Depot, I kid you not, and the man walked out of his truck, walked into Home Depot. The tow man was following him around. As soon as he went in the door, the man got out. He let those legs down in the back. He lifted the truck up and drove off. So anytime you see a tow truck without a sign on it, that's a repo. So when you see a truck without a sign and a new car being towed, just got repossessed. It's happening. Foreclosures are happening. But the advantage that you have with the foreclosure and you real about it and you know you haven't made the payments and you don't see how you're going to make the next one. The best thing to do is say, you know what? I've tried every means. Uncle Willie done loaned me all he could to try to keep up. Mama gave from her savings. At the end of the day, Mr. Deville, what other option do I have? The bank won't do a modification. The next option is 1 or 2. You give the keys back, or number 2, you pre-foreclose sell it, which I'm an expert at, pricing it right. Like I said, the lady, I just got her $142,000 after we pre-foreclosed the house, because if they took the house, Courtney, that 142, it may come back, but how long will it take? Who oversees that program to give me my 142 equity? But if you work with Deville Realty, we sell it. The bank gets the money in at escrow and title. they get paid off. Guess what? You get your money wired or a check in the next day, and you got 2 weeks to live in the house. You got your money, find a place, and in 1 year, because you didn't get a foreclosure, in 1 year, guess what? Good news, you're able to purchase again because you'll have money saved. That's not a Christmas money. It's not a Christmas bonus. You're going to pay off some of those debts. You already paid the mortgage off. You're going to pay off some of those debts. And then all you need is a 580 minimal credit score to buy a home next year. So you're going to rent for 1 year. You're going to save that money. You're not going to buy anything else. You're just going to pay off to get your score up to at least 600. And you got the same job. You got 30% down, 20% down, sometimes 10, right? Depending on where your credit score is in the next year. Not only, it doesn't take a long time to get your score. Once you pay some of those collections off, you can't dispute everything, you guys. Some things you can. The third parties you can. But if you're direct with a lender right now or some kind of money, you got to pay them off. Come on, you guys. They want to dispute everything, Courtney. But I'm helping you for my 20 years experience in Nevada in the real estate as a broker. I'm helping you understand how we can save that money. You're going to lose the house. You can't catch up those payments. You can't get your hand on $15,000, right? The bank's not willing to modify it for you. So what's your next alternative? Pre-foreclosure sale. Get some money out of the equity and go rent for a year. Now, this is what Greg Deville and Deville Realty team, this is what we do, Courtney. We specialize. Now, I've been to your office. In fact, I'll be down there in the next day or two to get some of the lists before they go to the recorder to knock on the door and say, ma'am, look, you got some, like I told the last lady, man, we got between 100 and I think 135 and to 150 equity in her home. She landed on 142. Now, can you see that the goodness in that? You're losing the house. So why not get your money now? The bank got theirs and you get yours. Everybody happy. But please keep up with those HOAs because the junk fees there is worse than the mortgage. Because the HOA, I had a client, he owed $9,000 in delinquent HOA. By the time they added up, it was $21,000. He only owed $9,000. But the junk fees went him up to $21,000. Crazy. But these are the kind of things we want to make aware to the community and our listeners to understand. Tell a friend. My contact information is 702-349-0162. Greg Deville, broker of Deville Realty Group. This is what we've been doing over the last 20 years here in Las Vegas, helping families sell your home, save your equity. You hear it directly from the county recorder's office. I want to help you understand. If you don't see a way out, let me help you know there is a way out. If you don't see an answer, a light at the tunnel, there is a light at the tunnel. I'm going to show you the light. I'm here to help you. No upfront costs. I'm not like an attorney. You got to go pay an upfront cost, a retainer fee. No, we charge you no fees. We'll list the property, no fees. We'll go through the 30 days with it, no fees. We're paid at the end of the transaction when you're paid. And the commissions are negotiable. So no fees. And the finances, again, they come out of escrow. So we get a buyer. We're not going to sell it at market value because time is of the essence. Now, if you got a foreclosure sale date, in many cases, we can get a postponement of sale. So if you're on that list, now I want to make note about the list because you can go see if your house is on the list. Go down to the county recorder's office, put your address in there, and you can tell if you're on the list. You've been getting a letter in the mail. The letter signed is stamped that we recorded this document that you're on a notice of default. It's a recorded document. And so, again, as the broker, from the broker side, these are the things, Courtney, that we're seeing as it relates to when I'm helping families. Like I said, they mostly call me because they think the bank's trying to take the house. Then when I put the fire out and they understand better, the bank don't want the house, right? We had a meeting with Wells Fargo, Chase, and Bank of America. They all came to town, had this conference, and they said, let's just be clear. We're not in the real estate business, right? They said, we don't want real estate. We want interest on money. Our investors put money, we give them 2%. We sell that for 7%, we keep 5%. That's the nature of the game. That's the nature of banking. So at the end of the day, They want to give that 2%, get their 5. So they want to work with you, but some of you're beyond that point. As Courtney mentioned, you waited too late. When you got that mail, you knew it behind. They sent you a letter after that 32nd day. There's a letter in the mail. Open the letter. They're simply letting you know that we observe anything we could do to help. They've got a correspondence on there. Reach out to them, talk to them. They'll try to be accommodating, but again, sometimes they don't always go in your favor. I see people. I got a modification before years ago. Market kind of went left a little bit. I called them up and they said, "Hey, sure, we'll. I tell you what we'll do. We'll put 2 months behind on the rear of your loan, and we'll give you 3 additional months." So the real estate, and they understood my scenario was the real estate industry, right? 2024, 23. Those years got a little weird, kind of like 25. It's just been a little weird now, right? So you're having to kind of move things around. But they were able to do it for me. And that's fine. It worked out. I got a hold of some of you that may be good for you. But there's some who people say they denied my modification. Well, that's the lady I got the 142,000. They denied the modification. She said, so what? She was a nervous wreck. She was terrified. She thought they could come. Let me make sure you understand. They don't just come and take your house. They don't knock on the door and say, get your stuff and get out. They're not the marshals. There's a protocol to getting you out of a property, and that's called an eviction notice. Now, when they do that trustee sales deed, the new owner has the property, they may do a eviction notice. But then sometimes they're just nice enough to knock on the door and say, look, we'll give you 30 days to relocate. At the end of the day, they don't want to mess your history up with any evictions. I've seen many of them just knock on the door, So again, that's what the Greg Deville showed today. Foreclosures are on the rise. I just wanted to validate it with the county recorder. Thank you, Courtney, for coming on today and, kind of backing exactly what I'm sharing with the community as it relates to foreclosures. And people are getting it. It's really happening. So always good to see. I'll see you in a couple of days, Courtney. I'll be up at the office there. I gotta get that list and go knocking on doors. So
all right,
man. Any last remarks you had on your notes you wanted to get out?
Again, our office just records documents. Again, we don't start this process, we don't run the process or manage the process. Okay, we can just give you information about what may be going on, so you can take a look at it to see what they are. We don't explain or interpret those documents. That's for an attorney to do. Right. Well, we can give you a copy of those documents. This not only affects, homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're like renting a home, you may want to sign up for the recording notification service to make sure that whoever does own the home is paying their rent or is paying the mortgage, so that you don't suddenly get kicked out and be like, I've been paying my rent. I don't understand why I'm getting kicked out. We've seen that happen as well. Okay, so renters can sign up for the recording notification service as well.
Okay.
Again, it is a free service. Okay, but it's just so that you can be in the know about the property that you're either renting or that you own. So
give us that website, Courtney. Give them that website that you can try and if that's something they want to do.
Let me see if I can put that in the chat here.
Yeah.
Okay, in the chat right there.
There you go.
And put that there, and then you can put that out there for everybody to see. You see it?
Yep, I'm looking right at it. There you go.
All right. So
everyone can see that. Yep. It's in the chat. And for those of you that are renters, again, that's another big topic. Landlords haven't been paying their mortgage. And as I tell on all of my radio shows, that when you pay rent, you're paying a mortgage. You're just paying it for someone else, and God forbid they're not paying it. Oh my God! To think you've been paying somebody's mortgage and they're not paying the mortgage. But this link will help you to know before that landlord. You cannot hold the rent by law. You have to pay, whether they're paying or not. You have to pay. You can't just not pay. However, you can bring it up that because they can have you evicted for non-payment of rent. So don't get evicted, because they're not paying. At the end of the day, it's an ugly thing to find out. But the reality is you have an agreement with the owner, not the bank. So don't take it wrong that you can just go withhold funds, because you will get an eviction, which makes it that much harder to rent the next place. So you may, if you find out they're not paying, you may want to consider relocating or moving, only because, yeah, you don't want a trustee sales deed to come knocking at the door, new owners, and yeah, how many times we heard that, right, Courtney?
Too many.
Too many. It's happening. It's happening. And especially now, since all these, I wonder how many out of all these numbers that we so far have spoken about are actually, rented units that made the list. Because right now, Courtney, in the North Las Vegas area, there's over 180 homes for sale under 400,000. In the Centennial Hills area, under 400,000, there's 105 homes available for sale. Not foreclosure necessarily, just because people are opting to sell for whatever reasons, but values right now under 400. There's 100. So I'm selling a house it's an older area, and they said, why can't we get? And they're at 400 something. They're over 4. And I'm saying one of the biggest things, we have 180 plus homes in North Las Vegas that's, over 180 under 400,000. So that's a tough market right now. If you're going to put your home on the market, you definitely want to be competitive with the market. Keep in mind, you want to pay the bank off. You want to get some funds out of the proceeds of sale. And this is what we do. We'll do to help you get it done. So Courtney, I won't hold you any more of your time. Appreciate you this afternoon, and thank Debbie for allowing you to have this time to, share with our listening audience, man. This is powerful.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And I'll see you in a couple of days. I'll be up there. I'll see you. And thanks again. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Make it a great day. All right, Las Vegas. So as we've mentioned, foreclosures are on the rise. And if you have been dealing with yourself on having, the notice of default on your house, once you get the blue tape on the door. Now, a lady told me she didn't even know she had the blue tape because she drives in through the garage. She never goes to the front door. Didn't realize the front door, the next knock on the door was from the trustee sale, person that bought the house. She didn't know it was being auctioned off because she never went to the front door. So read your mail, check your doors. If you know you're 4 months plus behind, we can't play as if we don't know. That's the reality. Is soon as you know you got 30 days, contact your bank. Try to tell them what the situation is. Many times they want you to write what is called a hardship letter explaining the reason of the default. Why has your payment not been made? So a one-page letter is all you need. Just, hit the bullet points of what happened. How do you expect to pay your next upcoming payments, right? Many cases, they'll work with you, give you a couple months, put it to the back of the loan. You'll eventually pay it. It's just in the back of the loan. Now, you may owe $12,000. Let's say you owe $12,000. Now when they do the modification, it may go up to 18. The attorneys have a fee, and then there's some late fees in there. So it may be 18, but it's at the back of the loan. Then you'll pick up your payments in the next couple months, resume as scheduled. All right. So if they decide that they do want to work with you in the foreclosure proceedings with the forbearance or modification, if you will. All right. Now the forbearance is kind of done away with only because that was more COVID and pre-COVID situation right there. Okay. But as it is right now, modification for some of you is available. Some of you that cannot get it, then you say, what can I do? I don't want you to stress. I don't want you to get frantic. Say, you know what? And if I sell the house, I got 80,000 coming, I can go rent for a little bit, save at least $35,000, $40,000, right? Come back. You still got the same job within a year. Now, remember, you're only going to rent for 1 year. You don't want to spend that money because money goes fast. You look up, that money will be gone. You can't want for anything but another house. So how are you going to do that? You're going to stay focused on your purpose. What is our purpose? What is our mission? Purpose is to get another house. Now, we got too far behind, but we learned some valuable lessons, did we not? Yes, we did. We learned valuable lessons. Don't take on more than we could chew as it comes to credit and credit cards. because those payments, and now we're in default there. Now we're in debt, and our mortgage is coming 30 days quicker than normal. You ever notice how fast August got here? Man, it's already August. A couple of days. I think I've given you today valuable information. I hope to hear from you. I'm here to help. There are no upfront costs. There are no fees up front. My service is pro bono up front, and will be paid at the end. So you don't have any more fears of how much I got to pay him. And you don't want to do this without a realtor. Listen to me, hear me well. 20-year experienced broker right here. You don't want to do this. It's too stressful. I've gone to school for this information. I've worked in the field. I've done my due diligence. I've been in the game. I know the lingo. Get a trusted professional. Now, there's about 10,000 realtors out there. Not everybody knows so much about pre-foreclosure. Everybody can sell a house. But to have someone who's knowledgeable in the field and the arena of where you are, not everybody's there. And if you're a first-time buyer, we got some programs to help you. If you're going to sell that home pre-foreclosure, or you say, you know what, I just want to sell my home and take the opportunity to downsize. Or maybe your family's growing and you want to upsize using the equity in your home. So we have to sell your home first, and then you take the proceeds from the sale, or you can do a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Let's say you get 80,000. Once you get that 80% of your value, you get 80. You only need, let's say you get a $600,000 home. You know, let's say you put 60,000 down, or 10% down. Now you're going to keep that rental. Maybe you can make that house a rental, or you can sell it and get 100%. So there are options that are available. Greg Deville, Team Deville, I'm here to help. I want to help you get whatever you want to do in real estate. How about taking the equity out and creating some residual income? How about that? What does that look like to you? Call me for more information on that. 702-349-0162. Greg Deville, Deville Realty Group, the name you need to know right here in the Valley, the largest Black-owned real estate firm in the state of Nevada, and we're excited about that. We've helped countless number of families, and we want to continue to do it. Let me thank so many of you for your referrals. We thank so many of you for recommending us. And please, if you know someone that this information can help, if you pass my number along, I'd be greatly appreciative of any referrals you give. Greg Deville, the Wealth Builder. I'm here to help you create wealth in so many ways. Solar marketing. Those of you that are homeowners, get solar. I have solar, and I'm telling you, I don't have a power bill, man. And my house is nice and cool. Not worried about, how much energy I'm using. I pay one flat payment a month, and it's free install. So when you talk with Greg Deville, a lot of services we provide are at no upfront cost. So that's great for me to encourage you to get involved. No upfront cost for buying a house, selling a house, solar, whatever you're looking to do, we got you. We want to help you. Now, there's some probate matters you want to talk about. I do have some probate attorneys available on standby. Probate is real. If you lost a loved one and they didn't have a will, well, even if they had a will, but they didn't have a living trust. A living trust is the only document that will keep you from a court probate matter. So if you don't have a living and the person passed, they don't have a living trust, but they had a will, you still got to go to probate. If they didn't have a will or living trust, still going to probate. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. I have probate attorneys on standby. We're sorry for your loss of your loved one. You got to do something about it. Don't make the mortgage payment because you're paying a person that's deceased payment. The bank understands. Let them know the person that's deceased. You have up to 1 year if you're going to live there, but you got to get started. If they had a reverse mortgage, you can live in the house. You don't pay rent on it, but you have to get the process rolling as far as, considering the probate, getting things done, and the proceeds will come out of the end. But you have to show them a death certificate. So people are trying to pay the passed on person's note, but that's not necessary. Okay, just keep the house secure if you're going to live in it, but get started on the probate matter. For more information, 702-349-0162. Greg Deville, Team Deville, Deville Realty Group. I'm out of time, certainly not out of information. I want to help so many more of you. Contact me. Let's talk about how we can help. All right, Las Vegas, I got to get out of here, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday, 12 to 1 in the afternoon. It's a great day. Make it a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Until I talk to you next time, may God's best be yours. Take care.
Jones, hey, Greg Deville was at it, man.